But we have someone this morning. You just talked to me out so early, right? Yeah, we know what we're doing right here. Okay. Although it doesn't look like it sometimes, right? We have someone here this morning. We are celebrating the sanctity of human life all across America today, and it is a very important topic, and we stand for life. And we have someone here this morning representing Choices of the Heart, also representing Jesus Christ. And she has a real storm story that she wants to share with you today that she's going through in her life. So Jenny Starling, if you would please come. This is Mary.
All right, okay. My testimony is a testimony about forgiveness. So just let me start off by telling you a little bit about my childhood. My father was an addict when I was growing up, and he was never really around at all. He'd get paid on a Friday, and then my mom and I wouldn't see him for days until he ran out of money and then he'd come home. My mom is a wonderful, wonderful parent. So I at least had one good parent in my life growing up. My family got divorced when I was 11 years old. And that was after my father had gone through, he'd gotten sober and gotten back into drugs. And he started keeping drugs in our house. And at that point, my mom was not going to let me or her be in danger. So it was during the divorce that I actually got saved. And my mom and I started really getting involved in church. And this church was so good to us. They would bring us dinner. They brought me Christmas one year, and they were just really pouring out God's love to us. And I was still keeping in touch with my dad, pretty much through letters. He was in prison most of my teenage years. And it was during my teenage years that I started falling away from God. I always just longed for a male or a guy to love me, because my dad, he always loved drugs and alcohol. So when I turned 15, I fell in love, or as much as you can fall in love when you're 15 years old. And I got caught up in sexual sin. And it was only one time, so nothing could really happen, So I just went on with my life, and then I was late. And I just put all this stress because I cheered, and we were getting ready for a huge competition at my high school, but I knew deep in my heart something was not right. And so I went to the health center and took a pregnancy test and found out I was pregnant. So the first time that I had sex, I became pregnant. Something that a teenage girl never thinks would happen. So I did the hardest thing, the second hardest thing I've ever done, and that was to tell my mom. And the look of disappointment on her face is something that I'll never forget. So we cried, wondering what we were going to do, and then we decided abortion. I told her on a Thursday, we were in the clinic on Saturday, and it was done. That was the decision we had made. And then we just pretended like nothing happened. I never went to counseling. We never talked about it. We just left it that day, and we went on with our lives. And it's funny, after 15 years, how that's never gone away. So I went on with my life. Graduated high school, came down here to GSU, and that was the best decision I've ever made. I got involved in Christian Campus Fellowship here at Georgia Southern, and my spirit was saved again. My relationship with God was better than ever. I was singing in the praise band. I was going on mission trips. My mom and I were talking every day. We were just becoming best friends. And I repented to God about my sexual sin. And he kept me busy where I never really dated in college, which was great. Because in high school, I felt like I needed a man to love me. And in college, I knew that he was the only one that I ever needed. So it was my senior year in college that I started praying for a husband. And I told God that I would be okay the rest of my life if I was single, because he was all I needed. And I think that's all that he needed me to pray. Because it was about 3 months later that I started noticing this little short guy with really thick blonde hair and long eyelashes. And for y'all that know him, Jason. He always made me laugh, and we had a great time together. And when he finally asked me on a date, I was scared to death. I didn't want to fall back into my old lifestyle. And he wouldn't want to date me anyways after he found out about my past. And these are the kind of things the devil always put in my head. So we went on a few dates, and everything was going great. And I went home Easter weekend in 2003, and this was a major turning point in my life. My mom had gotten us tickets to this Easter play at her church, and it was about Jesus' returning, and her and I went, and there would be different scenes of people, and the devil would come get them, or Jesus would come get them. Well, in one of the scenes, there was a girl on her knees praying that she had an abortion and how she didn't deserve to go to heaven. And the trumpet sounded, and Jesus walked out of the stage with her baby in his hands. And my mom grabbed my hand. In that moment, I knew that my baby was up there with my Heavenly Father. And that evening, my mom and I cried. And we finally talked about the thing that we tried to forget. My mom told me that she had forgiven me, and I told her I had forgiven her. And I knew that God had forgiven me at that point. And after 8 years, I finally forgiven myself. So that Sunday night, I returned back down here to Statesboro, and I called Jason, and I told him he had to come over because I had to tell him about my past, because this was his out if he wanted to get out, because I was really starting to fall for him. And so I told him about my abortion, and I told him about the experience I had the night before with my mom. And he hugged me, and he told me that he had forgiven me too. And he continued to tell me about someone very close to him who had also walked through an abortion. And she had just told him 2 years prior to us meeting. And I knew at that moment that God had prepared his heart for me, and that he was going to be the man I was going to marry. And so we did. We got married in 2005, and in 2007 we decided to try to have a baby. And I was very nervous. Wasn't sure if God was going to bless me with a baby because of my past. Wasn't sure if I was going to be a good mommy. Why I would get pregnant when there's so many people out there that couldn't. But it only took 3 months, and I became pregnant. And my pregnancy was going very smoothly, even though I was having a very, very hard time emotionally. And it was this time in my life that I went to Allison Westerfield, who was the director at the time at the Pregnancy Center here in Statesboro, and she called my heart during this time. She reminded me that God's grace is sufficient, and I held on to that during the whole pregnancy. And I had my little girl Gracie on September 2nd, 2008, and she was perfect. She had all her fingers and all her toes. She had lungs, good lungs. And God has truly, truly blessed me. And after 15 years, you still have moments after you've gone through a storm like this. Like when a really good friend of mine, her little baby passed away 3 days after she was born. And I kept thinking, why her, God? Why not me? I'm the one that deserves that, not her. But then God has to come my heart like always. Because the devil, our enemy, he prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. And I have to put on the armor of God daily to protect me through this. And, my testimony in there that my God is bigger. Because just in the past few months, I've finally gone through the counseling that I've needed for my abortion. I got back in touch with Allison at the center, and we walked through a Bible study called Surrendering the Secret. And I'm finally free. I realized that forgetting about my abortion just numbs the pain temporarily. But to be healed, we must remember. And that hurts, but it's very necessary. And in this Bible study, God revealed to me so many things. I was able to talk openly about things that I'd forgotten. I said things out loud I've never said before. And I had a memorial service for my little boy. And I named him Andrew. And I finally have gone through the grieving process that I've needed. And I'm ready to use my past hurts for God's glory. And that is my volunteer at the Pregnancy Crisis Center. And my prayer as I leave here is that that center will be known here in Statesboro. That girls and women that are going through a crisis, that they have somewhere to come, where they can talk to someone. We present the gospel at that center every time somebody walks in the door before they even take a pregnancy test. And I just pray that that center will be known here in Statesboro. I also pray as I leave here that if you've had an abortion and you've stuffed it deep and you've sealed the lid and you've put things to forget, I pray that you open it up. I pray you open up that lid and you remember and that you would be healed. I pray that you'll get in touch with me. I've got flyers out here. We can go through the Bible study, Surrendering the Secret. And you don't have to do this. You don't have to get up and tell everybody, but I just pray that you would be healed. Because scars remind us where we've been. They don't have to dictate where we're going. And I just wanted to leave y'all with a poem. I found this poem right around the time my mom and I went to that play. And I dug it back out because I didn't know how precious, a precious thing I was giving up until I had Gracie. And I think that's how a lot of women that's gone through abortion, I think that's how their mind is. So I just want to leave you with this. And it's entitled, The Babe I'll Never Hold. If I knew then what I knew now, you would have never died. I would have held you close and nurtured you and kept you by my side. I would sing these songs and reassured you more than silver and more than gold. But this song is all I have to give to the babe I'll never hold. I've never written poetry that hasn't been a praise to the Lord who wrapped you with me and helped me through those days. Jesus, now I'm asking, I know you hear my plea. Won't you take the child in your hands and hold my babe?